going to do a very basic but very delicious shrimp and barbecue pork fried rice. So it's a bunch of very basic ingredients and a very simple procedure to get this done. Really what it all starts with is utilizing your leftover rice. Up on our YouTube page, you will find a great tutorial that will teach you how to make amazing basmati rice, which if you make that batch and you let it cool down for at least 2 hours in your fridge, it turns out to be some of the best rice you can ever make fried rice out of. Get right into this, and hopefully you learn a technique or two and maybe pick up a couple flavor ideas. So really what we're going to do is we're going to do this in a couple of steps, in a couple of small parts. First, what we're going to do is we're going to start with actually getting our egg fried off and getting it set to the side, because that is one of the most crucial important ingredients in the entire dish. And we get it done out of the way right off the bat, so then we can utilize the pan for the rest of the dish. And it also helps if you're using actually a real wok, it will actually help a little bit with the non-stick. So we're going to start with a couple of eggs. And to that, we're going to add a little bit of mirin and soy sauce. So we're going to start with a couple of large eggs into whatever bowl you want to use. Start with my heat on quite high. A little bit of oil in the pan. And we are going to let that heat up till it's screaming hot. Now, what we are going to add to this egg, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce and 1 teaspoon of something called mirin. Now, mirin, if you don't know, is a sweet cooking wine that's used to season a lot of amazing dishes that come out of a lot of different regions of Asia. Japanese cooking, Chinese cooking, everybody uses this. It's phenomenal. I highly recommend you go grab yourself a bottle. So we're also just going to add 1 teaspoon of that. Now once we got everything in our eggs, while our pan is heating up, we're just going to give these guys a real good whip. Now, the more air you end up incorporating into your eggs, the lighter and the fluffier they're going to be. So, we've got a great looking set of eggs there, and now all we're going to do is wait for our pan to get up really nice and screaming hot. Now, I'm just going to set these to the side, because while that is warming up, we can start on the rest of our little bit of prep we're going to do. Dicing an onion. One of the most simple things, but also one of the most complicated for a lot of people. This is just a simple way that a lot of chefs will dice. We'll run one to the bottom, depending on how thick, and one to the middle. Take your knife and from the top down, give yourself some channels on the thickness that you want your onion, and then just simply run your knife through the onion, and you've got yourself some perfectly diced onions. Simple as that. So, we'll have those ready to start once we're done with it. Garlic and ginger. Simple items. For the garlic, all you're going to do is you knock the tip of the root off, press down on your knife. That will take off all the skin. After you've taken all the skin off, press again just to get it nice and tight, and then we're just going to do a really nice cut on it. And then go back over it with our knife just for a nice rough chop. Pull the garlic off and into the bowl. Alright, so our pan is just about hot enough now. And we're just going to quickly move into the ginger. So one thing I always hear from a lot of people is that they struggle with dealing with ginger is how to peel it and save most of the ginger itself without losing a lot of the flesh. The secret to that, simple spoon. All you do is you hold the spoon up tight and you just simply run it over top of your ginger. It's going to take that first layer of skin off really, really easily and save almost all of the flesh underneath. Simply finish all the way around. You've got peeled ginger. Alright, our skillet is finally hot enough. You can see how nice that oil is just running around that pan. It's starting to smoke just a little bit. Now we take our egg mixture right in. Now this isn't going to take very long. I'm using a larger pan, but obviously if you have a smaller pan, you're going to get into your egg and move it around just a little bit quicker than I am. I'm basically going to let the bottom cook, and then all we're going to do is we're going to stir this around really fast, put it back into the same bowl, because we are going to put this back into the rice at the end of the cooking, so it will recook any small amount of the raw egg that you pick up off the bowl. So now, and that's it. Now that's going to go right back into our bowl. Now the great thing about this is that because you can use the same pan, that pan is now screaming hot and ready to go. So we can just add a touch more oil back into our pan. And the first thing I'm going to start with are the onions that we just diced up. Get a really nice sizzle on that. At this point, I'm going to turn my pan down to a little over medium hot heat. And we're just going to saute it. Almost immediately, because of a little bit of soy sauce that we had in the pan, it's going to start picking up some color, and obviously because it's quite hot. So we're going to finish off the rest of this stuff while it is just rendering down those onions just a touch. Now for the ginger, this is my little secret ingredient, is the microplaning. Rather than dicing the ginger and having a fibrous texture, this will essentially mince it so fine that it will disappear inside your dish. This is a great tool, and I highly recommend everybody go get one of these. So all we're going to do is take our ginger right over top of here, make sure you're going the right way with the slants, and we're just going to grate. Not only is this effective, but boy does it make your kitchen smell unbelievably good. So for this, I'm going to use about half of this nub of ginger that I have peeled here. And as you can see, it does take a little bit of time, but it is absolutely worth it. This ginger paste right here is absolutely everything you want it to be. It is so smooth, and it has packed such a good flavor punch, you don't need as much as you would usually use. Alright, back to our onions. So, we've now let our onions caramelize a little bit. So now we're ready to add our rice. So again, this is the rice that we made using the technique that we have up on the YouTube channel. And you can see those individual grains have really nicely separated since we cooled it down, which is going to make for exceptional fried rice. So we're going to take this, it's going to go right into the pan. At this point, we're going to start moving things around, get everything nice and spaced. You can hear that wonderful crackle sound, and that is the sound of that moisture just escaping ever so gently out of the rice, and we're going to start seeing that crisp up really nice and quickly. One of my favorite things about basmati rice is that it is such a nice long grain white rice that it really does actually crisp up quite nicely when you do a fried rice with it, which I think gives the fried rice itself a really nice texture and a depth of flavor. So we're just going to kind of keep moving that around. That's how we get that all in there. So the other thing I'm going to be adding to this as far as vegetables are just some diced red peppers. This is about half of a red bell pepper that I diced up earlier, about this a little bit bigger than the onions. We're going to throw this in now just to start softening it. We don't want it to cook too much, or else you're going to release too much water into the rice and it's going to get a little mushy. So we'll just throw that right in there. And this is starting to smell really good in here. Now the big thing you might be noticing is that I don't have any sauces, or I don't have a lot of other liquids out that we're going to be adding to this. It's one thing I see a lot of people make a mistake when they're making fried rice, is that they'll add a ton of sauce to the rice, especially when it's cooking. If you're going to add anything as far as flavoring, especially wet flavorings to this, make sure you do it after you're all done cooking and it's on your plate and you're flavoring it yourself. It will prevent any of that unpleasant texture that rice can get when it sits into a wet surface. So at this point, the garlic and the ginger that we had, we're going to spoon that right in there. Give that a quick little toss, get those flavors working. Now while that's just starting to cook, now comes one of my favorite parts of this entire dish. This is Asian style barbecue pork. This is one of the greatest products that you can find at any good Asian supermarket, at anywhere that does good butchery or barbecue house, especially some of the good Asian barbecue houses around town. This is a special product. It usually sits in a bath of soy and mirin for a couple of days to cure, and then they cook it in a really amazing oven, and ultimately they lacquer it usually with some char siu, and it is personally one of my most favorite things ever. Like, I'm going to snack on a piece right now because it's so good. Luckily for us now, with the availability of Asian food markets, this barbecue pork is available almost anywhere. So we're just going to toss that right in there. So really what we're going to do now is that pork is just going to kind of warm up a little bit. We're going to render a touch of the fat that's left in there just to let it get a little bit crispy. And all while that's happening, we got one of the last bits. So we've got 8 really, really nice, fresh, actually from the same Asian market that I got the pork from, white shrimp. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just simply cut these up so they really, really quickly flash cook in the rice at the very end of the cooking process, so they stay very, very crispy. Well, I guess not crispy. It doesn't get overcooked. We don't want that chewiness and that rubberiness that really we all know nobody enjoys when it comes to shrimp. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys, and really we're just going to cut them into quarter pieces. This way they'll cook nicely and they'll be bite-sized, so you can stuff a lot of them in your mouth at the same time. The bigger ones cut into 5. So they're all about uniform size. So we're just going to set those to the side right now. There, go back to the pan, give it a quick little toss. See, now we're starting to see some really nice crispiness. Now that some of that pork fat has started rendering, it's going to just add a little bit of that extra nice liquid fat that the rice is going to pick up on, and it's going to really force that crispiness into that rice, which is really the best part about fried rice. All right. I wish you guys could smell it in here. It smells unbelievably good. So now that that pork is starting to render down just nicely, make sure it's good temperature. Perfect. Take the shrimp right on in there. Move it around. Nice in there. Now all we're going to do, we're just going to keep cooking this on that same just over medium-high heat until that finishes crisping up and those shrimp cook all the way through. Now really, as far as garnishes go, it's completely up to you. You want fresh cut chilies, green onions, bamboo shoots, whatever you like. It's kind of chef's choice at that point. Personally, I like to keep it simple. I really enjoy just some simple green onions. So all I've got is a couple of green onions here that we're just going to cut really nice and long on the bias while the rice finishes cooking. Those can just stay right there on my cutting board until we are done, since they're just going to go on as a garnish. Oh, this is looking and smelling delicious. Alright, so our shrimp, I would say, are about 85% done. So we're going to take our egg. It's going to go right back into the pot, or pan, I guess. Now we are just going to get that guy nice and warm again and blend all those flavors all the way through. So now this only needs about 90 more seconds until you are completely done the cooking process itself. I just want to make sure that every single shrimp cooks all the way through, which we look like we have. All right. Dare I say, this looks good enough to eat. So really, with a very simple set of ingredients, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of that soy sauce again. I'm going to take a touch of sesame oil. Just a little bit because it's very aromatic and it's quite strong. And then we're going to take a really nice big handful of those green onions. We're going to go all over. Now, that's it. That's barbecue shrimp. Barbecue pork shrimp fried rice. Simple, delicious, comfort food at its finest. What you want to put in there is completely up to you. Change it up. It's a great way to utilize leftovers. The flavors are awesome. You know, I hope everybody that was watching this maybe learned something, or you know, maybe even just picked up a new idea or a new recipe that they would like to try at home. I hope you guys come back and keep joining us. I hope you guys check out the YouTube channel. And if you want to interact with me, please hit me up on Twitter at UncensoredChef with 2 F's at the end. And I'd love to hear from you guys.